Whilst the opposition is furious about the conversion campaigns conducted by the Bajrang Dal and Dharm Jagran Manch and the new ones announced for Christmas Day, the BJP has called for a law banning all conversions. So tonight we ask, has the time come to ban conversion, or would that be unconstitutional because it breaches freedom of speech and the freedom to propagate one's faith? My guests are former Attorney General and former Solicitor General Soli Sorabji, the spokesperson of the Delhi Catholic Archdiocese, Father Saveri Muthu Shankar, BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra, and CPM Rajya Sabha MP Ritobrata Banerjee. Sambit Patra, let me start by trying to understand your party's position. Are you calling for a law to ban all conversions per se, or simply a ban on forced conversions as well as those done by inducement and allurement? Which of the two is it?
No, definitely it is by the inducement and allurements, as approximately 7 to 8 states in the country already have this kind of law. I mean, the first to formulate them were, of course, the Orissa, Madhya Pradesh and the Arunachal Pradesh states way back in 1968 and 1978. And definitely on those lines, India should also promulgate a law to see to it that none of these conversions which take place are by means of fraud, by means of allurement, or by means of inducements.
All right. You say that your party's focus is in fact on banning conversions by force, allurement or inducement. But speaking in the Rajya Sabha yesterday, and I'm going to address this question to Soli Sorabji, speaking in the Rajya Sabha yesterday, Arun Jaitley talked of the possibility of a ban on all conversions per se. Now, let's first focus on that. Would a ban on all conversions, in your eyes, be a breach of Article 19 of the Constitution, which guarantees freedom of speech and expression, and perhaps also a breach of Article 25, which guarantees the right to propagate one's faith?
Yes, Karan, I would rather say it would be a breach of Article 25, because Article 25 says a person has a fundamental right to profess, practice and propagate. Now, if you look at the debates in the Constituent Assembly, it's quite clear that the founding fathers wanted to guarantee the right to propagate, in a sense, to convert another to a point of view by persuasion, by discussion, by debate. There's no question about it. We are all agreed any conversion brought about by fraud, coercion, or any inducement is no conversion at all. But surely there can be conversion. I may want to convert to another religion as a result of study, reflection, or inner conviction. It has happened in other countries abroad, Cardinal Newman, G.K. Chesterton. And let me tell you, even in India, in Bombay, very well, from a well-placed Parsi family, I forget the first name, she became Sister Dhala. She converted to Catholicism. No one forced her. It was a result of her inner conviction. And what is more, rather bizarre for me, a solicitor and Payne Company, Balsara, converted to Islam.
So
now, of course, we Parsis are very dismayed because we are a small community. But the question is, the basic fallacy is that all conversions are wrong, and no conversion can be the result of study, reflection, or inner conviction. That's the fallacy.
So what you're saying to me, Soli Sorabji, is that Arun Jaitley's proposal, and it was only a proposal, to ban all conversions per se, would actually be a breach of Article 25, and therefore it will be unconstitutional.
In my view, it would be so.
Father Shankar,
I'm sure Arun Jaitley on reflection will change his position.
He may well do. You're right. Lawyers do have the right to reflect and believe that what they said wasn't correct. That is a prerogative he has. The ban on all conversions, Father Shankar, would of course apply to all religions, including what the VHP calls ghar vapsi or reconversions. Given that it would apply to everyone equally, would that sort of ban be more acceptable to the church?
No. First of all, it is, as you said, violation of basic fundamental rights. As Sambit has said, 8 states already formulated this enactment, and they call it Freedom of Religion Act. And it's already a contradiction of terms. On the one hand, you say you have the freedom to propagate. On the other hand, you say I have a choice. But then you say, let's put a ban.
I should add at that point that there is a Supreme Court judgment which has interpreted the freedom to propagate as not necessarily being the same as the freedom to proselytize and convert. The Supreme Court made a distinction between propagation and conversion. You
Yes.
may not agree with it, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
no,
the
I
Supreme-
know, I know the background. But I would like to ask one question. When I say I have the right to propagate, and I propagate, and the other person is convinced, and he has a freedom of conscience, and he wants to accept my religion, and how can the state stop him?
So a ban on conversions per se, which applies equally to all, including to the VHP's Ghar Wapsi, even that sort of ban is not acceptable to the church.
Not only to the church, every basic human freedom, it's against basic human freedom.
Ritubrata Banerjee, can the left parties, and yours in particular, the CPM, ever accept an outright ban on all conversions which applies equally to all faiths?
No, the point is that Soli Sorabji was pointing out to this 25. Now you have Article 26, where the freedom is given to manage all religious affairs. Now, along with this, IPC section 153A is there, which classifies forcible attempts on the name of religion as a criminal offense. So there is no law. Yesterday we have pointed out, our leader Sitaram Yechuri in the Rajya Sabha have pointed out, there is no need for a new law. Already the constitution of the country provides that. This particularly the section 153, this section A, 153A, which categorically says that any forcible attempts on the name of religion is a criminal offense.
Okay.
So there is no necessity of a new law.
But
That's the Constitution of India.
I take
That's
your point.
supreme.
You're talking, of course, about a law that would ban conversions by allurement, inducement, and force. Let's come to that in a moment's time. I'm first talking, Ritubrata, about a ban on all conversions, full stop, whether voluntary, whether by inducement, whether by force. Can your party ever accept a blanket ban on all conversions that applies to all religions, including the VHP's Ghar Wapsi movement? Can you ever accept that?
Once more, you just repeat.
I was asking, can you ever accept a blanket ban on all conversions?
No, the point is I mentioned, these discussions, before these, because this conversion discussion is going on, the point we have made categorically, that there is no need of any new law. That
Okay.
is not at all necessary.
Right.
The Constitution provides.
Okay, we're collapsing into the second type of conversion. Let's then move formally and talk about the second type of ban. The second type of ban, Sambit Patra, would be a ban on what are called forced conversions or conversions by allurement and inducement. Now, forced conversions, as you've heard Ritubrata Banerjee say, are already covered by existing laws. You therefore don't need an additional law to cover forced conversions. And conversions by inducement and allurement are clearly meaningless conversions because they can be reversed at the drop of a hat. A person who gets allured in one direction can get allured back in the opposite direction with great ease. So in either case, you don't need a law, either because you have one that's adequate or because of allurement conversion is a meaningless thing. Why worry about it? So why are you pressing for a ban in this instance?
No, Karan, this is a very important question, but let me correct Mr. Ritubrata Banerjee by citing some examples from the Supreme Court. I mean, this whole case had gone to the Supreme Court. The Madhya Pradesh law that we are talking about today was dragged to Supreme Court way back in 1969. And Chief Justice of India, A.N. Ray, was the one who heard the case. And the words of Chief Justice was, as you rightly pointed out a few minutes ago, that the Article 25(1), which guarantees propagation of one's religion, does not mean conversion. But most importantly, let me just read out 4 lines of the judgment which would, I believe, quench the thirst of most of the debate. The Supreme Court held that any attempt, any word I emphasize, any attempt at any conversion was likely to result in a breach of public order affecting the community at large. The state legislatures would have the competence to enact legislation which is likely to avoid disturbances to the public order by prohibiting conversion from one religion to another in a manner reprehensible to the conscience of the community. This is a most important, I believe, the paragraph of the Supreme Court judgment of Justice A.N. Ray, which speaks of any conversion, and in a way the Supreme Court had upheld the fact that no conversion should take place because that tantamounts to disturbing the public order at large.
Let me put that to Soli Sorabji. Soli Sorabji, I want to ask you 2 questions. The first question is, do you believe the judgment of A.N. Ray, quoted a moment ago by Sambit Patra, means that the Supreme Court has itself decided that conversions are illegal because they will threaten public order, and therefore, as a consequence to A and Ray, there should be a ban on all conversions. Do you believe that logically follows from the A and Ray judgment?
No, just give me a minute, Karan. I had appeared in that matter. That judgment was delivered 11 months after the conclusion of arguments, without any reference to the Constituent Assembly debates which are cited, to prove that genuine conversions were recognized in the expression propagate. And what did Chief Justice Ray do after 11 months? He went to the Oxford Dictionary to construe the word propagation. That judgment is a complete aberration, and I do not think it should be stretched any further. The whole question is, why do you believe, the basic fallacy is, you believe there cannot be any conversion because of inner conviction? Don't we try to ask capitalists to convert the way of thinking to socialism? Or vegetarians saying non-vegetarians are good? Convert means how to persuade people by debate, discussion, to adopt their particular faith, a particular way of thinking. How do you ban all that? I don't understand that. Why do you take away my choice?
Let me come to my second.
My religion with another.
Let me come to my second question, Soli Sorabji. My second question is a very specific one. The BJP wants a law to ban what they call forced conversions. Does the existing law suffice when it comes to conversions by force, or do we need new legislation to handle forced conversions?
Actually, I don't think Section 153A really deals with forced conversions. But if a conversion has been brought about by deception or force or coercion, it's no conversion at all. So there is no difficulty in having a law trying to prohibit those conversions, because they are not genuine conversions. That's all right. Only point is who determines that.
But you're saying a very important thing.
The district collector wants to inquire, why did you convert?
No, I understand. You're saying a very important thing. You're saying you don't believe Section 153 of the Penal Code sufficiently handles forced conversions, and therefore it follows that you may need a specific law to specifically handle forced conversions. Have I interpreted you correctly?
Correctly, 153A doesn't deal with the topic of conversion. It says you should not have any speech or communication which incites feelings of ill will and disharmony between different classes of community.
Which is a different thing.
So if you have some conversion, aggressive conversion, which says my religion is the best and yours is hopeless, yours is inferior, it may be attractive. But the question is 153 is not, in my opinion, not aimed at forcible conversion.
Okay, therefore it follows that if the present law as it stands is not adequate, you may need further tightening or a new law to handle forced conversions. But let me come now to the church. I accept unreservedly that the Catholic Church does not indulge in conversions by inducement or allurement. However, Philip Goldberg, writing in HuffingtonPost.com on the 19th of February 2014, says that many smaller fundamentalist sects, often backed by American money, are doing precisely this. He makes it absolutely clear that what they're doing is they're exploiting poverty and vulnerability to seek converts. That not only is abhorrent, but in addition, it would give the Catholic Church a bad name by association, because these people claim to be Christians as well. Therefore, in your own protection, and also to ensure that people's poverty and vulnerability is not exploited, would you agree to a law that specifically bans conversions by allurement and inducement or by force?
As you said in the beginning, they are contradictory in terms. Conversion by allurement, inducement, they are not genuine. So one day they are here, one day they are there. What about the conversions that took place in Aligarh, Nagra? Now they are being planned for Christmas Day. They are the ones, we call it forced conversion by force. So I cannot equate the 80% of Indian population who are Hindus to these fringe groups who indulge in forced conversion. Same way, we cannot equate a few fringe groups of Christian groups, the Pentecostal groups, whatever you call it, equating with the Christian or the church, Christianity.
I accept that. Do not equate the mainstream with the minority or the fringe. However, given that the fringe is doing things it shouldn't be doing, I ask you the question again. Should there not be a law to specifically prevent Pentecostals or fringe groups, be they the VHP type or the Christian type, from carrying out conversion by inducement and allurement or by force?
No, it's already there in the Indian Penal Code. We have enough
Well, Soni
provisions.
Sarabji's just said it's not sufficient. He said 153A isn't sufficient. You heard him.
Even 295, 298, which clearly says you cannot hurt the sentiments of somebody's religion, religious beliefs.
So even a law that specifically looks at conversion by inducement or allurement would be abhorrent to you?
Not abhorrent, it is just a violation of human rights, basic human freedom.
Is it a violation of human rights? Because there is no human right which says that you should prey upon my poverty or my vulnerability to induce me to another faith. There's no human right which says I have a right to prey on people's poverty.
Nobody is preying. Nobody is preying on somebody's poverty. So the question is now freedom of religion. I have the right to propagate and you have the right to accept. That is freedom of conscience.
Okay. Let me bring you in at that point, Rito Brata. You believe that conversions are a fundamental right. People have a right to convert. People have a right to seek converts. And you argue that there should be no ban on conversions of any sort at all. Let me put the opposite viewpoint to you. Is conversion, I ask, a morally acceptable practice? Because A, it presumes that you can judge between one faith and another. And secondly, it assumes that one faith is superior to another. Otherwise, conversions would never happen and people wouldn't seek to convert others. So I ask you, is it morally acceptable to seek to convert?
No, see, people who believe in religion, that is their thing. Our point is very clear, as Article 26 categorically says that you have the freedom to manage religious affairs. And while I was speaking about the 153A, Mr. Sorabji had said, but in 153A of the IPC, it is categorically said that any forcible attempts on the name of religion is a criminal offense. The question is, when in a country like ours, it's a secular democratic country, this question is coming into fray when different incidents every day are happening, and even the House did not run today. You know, this conversion thing is there, the Rajya Sabha, yesterday it was there, today it was there. These things are coming into discussion because there are attempts, these attempts which are not in congruence with the democratic fabric, secular fabric of our country.
Okay, let me put to you, Sambit Patra, a question that occurs to people when they hear the BJP calling for a ban on conversion by inducement, allurement or force. They say, you always want this sort of ban when the claim is that Christians or Muslims are converting Hindus. But when your own allies, the Dharm Jagran Manch and the Bajrang Dal, are clearly offering inducements and allurements to 57 Muslim families in Agra, or claim to do it to 3,000 Christian families and 1,000 Muslim families in Aligarh on Christmas Day, then you don't seem to criticize them. Then you're silent. Then your ministers are paralyzed because they feel that they can't criticize fellow members of the Sangh Parivar. And people say, this is double standards.
No, Karan, let me make 2 points over here. One a technical point, another a political point. The political point over here, which would be correct, is if there is a law and order situation taking place in Uttar Pradesh or supposedly going to take place on 25th of December, in which allurements are being offered to people of some communities to convert into another, I believe the Uttar Pradesh state government should act and should see to it that none of such thing takes place.
And we are open about it. Doesn't the central government have a moral voice that it needs to express? And secondly, doesn't the Prime Minister and the Home Minister need to say this is unacceptable? When you call for a ban on one type of conversion,
Karan,
but the same is being practiced by your own side, criticize them as well.
Karan, allow me some time. Suppose a fact-finding team is being formed by the central government and sent to Uttar Pradesh. Karan, I guarantee tomorrow the topic of discussion would be encroachment upon the federalism of this country. I believe the Samajwadi Party government, which is the elected government there, has the right to investigate, has the right to arrest people if there is something wrong going on. Now, the technical point which I wanted to make is very important. There was a case in the Supreme Court 1969, S. Rajagopala versus CM Armugam and others. And in this, they have clearly spoken about, in fact laid down what we call Ghar Vapasi today. Almost all these cases laid down the principle that on reconversion to Hinduism, a person can become a member of the same caste in which he was born and to which he belonged before having been converted to another religion.
Just a moment. A person may choose voluntarily to reconvert back to Hinduism, that's a different matter. But when that reconversion is done on the promise of BPL cards, Aadhaar cards and ration cards, which is what has happened in Agra, then it becomes the same problem you're talking about, conversion by inducement and allurement. Now, you're calling for a ban of that sort of conversion, but you won't criticize your own people when they do the same thing. And I'm pointing out to you, that's hypocritical. You're going around avoiding my question by quoting the Supreme Court instead.
I'm quoting the truth because Supreme Court I hold in great esteem, and I have answered the question of yours in the first part of my answer, where I said if anything wrong is taking place, then we are not in collusion with Samajwadi Party. We have not instructed them not to act.
This has got nothing to do with Samajwadi Party, so let's leave them out of it. I'm talking about you and your government. I'm going to go back to you, Ritubrata Banerjee, for the last word. How long will this issue of conversions, which is paralyzing Parliament, continue to paralyze us? Because I put it to you, ultimately, the best guard against conversions is education and economic prosperity. And will you accept that until India achieves a certain level of education and prosperity, conversion will continue to be a problem in our society? A quick answer.
Yes, I agree with you, but the point is the Prime Minister is, Parliament is not a mere talking shop. You have to, already the Prime Minister came and said something, but after that incidents, the Adityanath incident happened. Now you have the day of Christmas declared as the day of good governance. This is categorically targeting the Christian minority in the run-up to the Jharkhand election. As things were done, you spoke about love jihad. It was targeting the Muslims during the time of UP election. So the point is, the government has to take the responsibility.
Absolutely.
How can you declare 25th of December, day of Christmas, as a day of good governance? This is not done. This is a secular country.
I'm going to stop you there. You're absolutely right. At the end of the day, the central government has to take responsibility. At the end of the day, the Prime Minister has to take responsibility. And when there's a need to speak out, their voice must be heard. We're going to end on that particular point. My thanks to my four guests for joining me. There we end this particular episode. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.